everyone and welcome back to the Bare Thread. So I've done a bit more sewing. So I got this like fun cotton jersey fabric. It has quite a dark teal background and then it has some small, I guess you could say geometric shapes, but they're actually a little bit, they're not exactly precise necessarily, in like cream, brown, white, red, dark blue or navy, and then a mid blue colour. When I bought it online, I thought it was a brighter teal colour, or like just a brighter background, and it is actually a little bit darker than I anticipated. It's also ribbed, which I don't think I realised when I initially put it in my basket when I was shopping, but then I did know before I bought it, and I was a bit like, ooh, do I want ribbed fabric? But I am actually wearing another top that I wear quite a lot underneath my jumper, which you may or may not be able to tell is actually ribbed fabric, and I actually do wear it all the time and like it, and it's comfortable, so I kind of just thought go with it. It was in the Little Legs sale. I did just go a bit wild that day and just buy loads of stuff from their sale section that I probably shouldn't have done because I had no need to. So I have made the Tilly and the Buttons Agnes top. I need more long sleeve tops in my wardrobe. I just noticed that the weather getting colder and I just didn't have very many long sleeve tops, and I tend to just wear the same ones over and over. So I ummed and ahed about doing something more complicated and also buying new patterns, and I just didn't want to have to buy a new pattern and spend that extra money. And also I just kind of wanted to make something that I knew how to make and I'd done before and it was successful and I know it fits and I've already got the pattern pieces printed out and so on and so on. So I made another Agnes, so this will be number 4. I have done some that are short sleeved. The Agnes is a long sleeve top. It's a fairly straightforward one. You've got front and back bodice and then you've got your sleeves, and then you have the option to add some elastic to the top of the sleeve. So it kind of ruches up, and that is a different sleeve pattern piece if you do that, or add elastic to the centre front of the bodice, so this kind of ruches up, and it does give it like a fun look. I do think sometimes it's hard to do it neatly, but it does add something to the top. I decided to just do this one like plain and straightforward, keep it simple, and also with this ribbed fabric I wasn't quite sure like if it would be weird to sew. So I started sewing it and I used a zigzag stitch and it was a big old mess. I actually did and kept the front and back bodice pieces together at the shoulder seams with the original stitching that I did, and it was just skipping so many stitches. It was such a mess. It was really like weak, but also the stitches weren't going to stretch as I used the garment, so they were just all going to snap. It was just going to be a total mess. I tried to sew the neckband on and I had to unpick it and take it off because it just wasn't even going to stay on, you know, one wear and it would have just all ripped off. I was really frustrated. I tried to rethread the machine, I changed the stitch tension, I changed the needle, and nothing really seemed to work. It was fine doing a straight stitch with the same fabric. It was fine doing a zigzag stitch on different fabric. So I didn't understand, but it seemed to be the combination of the ribbing and the zigzag stitch was not happy. So what I ended up doing the next day, I put totally different thread in to make sure it wasn't the thread again, which is why like some of the inside is stitched in pink and red. And that worked, but I also increased the stitch width or length, or both. I put it up to like 2.5 on both the length and the width for my zigzag, and that worked. So it's a little bit of a wider, bigger, longer zigzag than I would have used, but it worked. And so I wonder maybe if that was just the right size to get over each of the ribs in the fabric, and I should have like thought of that initially, but I didn't know that would be a problem. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know it struggled to go through the ribs. But that seems to have been the problem because that was the solution. And then I realised, so I sewed it in this like pink thread, if you can see, and I thought, well, the insides are just going to be messy, like whatever. But then I did realise that you are supposed to top stitch around the neckband, and I thought, well, I just won't do that because I don't want to top stitch in pink. But then I realised that I would have to hem the bottom of the top and also the bottom of the sleeves with top stitching basically. So I did find a better coloured thread, which is kind of a teal colour. It's a little bit brighter than the base colour of this fabric, but it's pretty good. It looks alright as top stitching, and it's not the worst top stitching ever. Like, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. But that thread with the longer stitch length worked fine. So thankfully I was able to sew it, because I got a couple of meters and I did loads of Tetris, and I managed to cut out the pattern pieces for 3 different garments, and it took me so long to, like, I had laid on the floor and all the pattern pieces out for all the different garments to see how they were all fit together, because I just wanted to use all the fabric and not be left with like bits left over. Obviously I do have a little bit left over, because I don't know how you would not, but I did get loads of use out of it, and then I was so frustrated to think that I wouldn't be able to sew it after all that work, and it would just be a waste of money and time and effort. But actually I think this is the trick. I just needed to set the stitch length a bit longer, and actually it's worked out fine. I do think that possibly I have stretched the fabric a bit around the neck and also more around the hem. If you can see, it's like a little bit wiggly in the hem. I don't think it's very noticeable on wearing, because like my body will stretch it out a bit anyway, but like when I hold it up and look, I can kind of see that it's gone a little bit wiggly, the fabric has. So I think that might be me stretching it. I'm assuming that would be what would cause it. You could maybe do with an iron around the seams. I haven't done that yet because I was worried about ironing over the ribs. I don't know if that would be a bit weird. But yeah, it could probably do with a iron. But other than that, I'm quite pleased with another Agnes top. Just a simple long sleeve top that is quite autumnally actually. The darker colour works for autumn. So like I said, I did cut out a couple of other patterns as well, and so one that was like a little bonus pattern was these for my son, just some leggings, which definitely need an iron as well because they're looking a little bit bobbly around the cuffs. So these were like made out of the leftovers of the 2 patterns that I cut out for me, so I did have to do a bit of patchworking. So I think on the front you can see that there's a seam that runs across the top and round the back, and then there's a seam that runs down the middle of this leg. In hindsight, I wish I'd thought that through and put the extra seam on the back, but at the time I was just like trying to lay the pattern pieces out wherever I could fit them. And also, this fabric was like the end of the bolt, and it's definitely faded in places. So the front of this leg is much more faded than like the other leg and the other pieces, so that must have been just a bit that was, you would think that would be a bit that was exposed to more light, but I guess if it was on the end of the bolt that wouldn't be the case. But I also noticed that like on my top as well, there's little bits like this bit around the neckline here looks a little bit faded. There's just little odd bits, but for the most part it's not so noticeable on mine. But I definitely noticed it on my son's leggings that like this leg is more faded and a lighter colour than the other leg, which is a little bit annoying. But it's fine, and like I said, I did have to do a bit of patchworking to get the legs out, which massively confused me because I did it in the most complicated, confusing way possible, where I don't know what I was doing, but I got completely lost when I was when I was just cutting them out and like having to then piece the leg piece back together. My brain couldn't handle it. They're pretty simple leggings. So these are the Little Lightning, no, they're just the Lightning leggings. They're Waves and Wild Lightning leggings, and I always call them Little Lightning, which is the name of the boxcar racer thing that Bart Simpson makes in The Simpsons, and for some reason that is like stuck in my brain forever. They're just called the Lightning leggings, and they're a free pattern from Waves and Wild, so it's a good one to pick if you are sewing for kids. It's pretty simple. You have the waistband, the legs where you just cut out 2 identical because the pattern wraps round, and then you've got the cuffs, or you can make them so that you don't have the waistband, you just add some elastic and hem, like roll it over, and then also you just hem the bottoms, you don't add the cuffs. I like to have the waistband and then put elastic in it, because I find without the elastic they fall down. But if I do the elasticated waist option, I don't like that way of sewing it in, because you have to sew the elastic to the fabric all the way along, and then if it turns out to be the wrong size, you have to unpick the entire thing. Whereas this, if it turns out that these are too big or small, I can just take the elastic out and trim a little bit off and stick it back in. So the elastic does need to be sewn in place, I think, because otherwise it's going to move around and twist. So I'm just going to sew it down that back seam. So that's still to do, but I'm going to actually try them on him first, which I haven't done yet. Just to check the waistband, because he has worn these leggings before, this pattern before, so it's just, I just don't know, I just don't write down the measurements that I use for his waistband ever, because I'm just making it up every single time. One day I'll write it down, or I'll measure him maybe. But anyway, these are the cute little lightning leggings from Waves and Wild. In the matching fabric, so mummy and son can match, and then this is my Agnes, Tilly in the button, Agnes top. So I do have another garment in the same fabric to come, I just haven't made it at all yet. So let me know what you think in the comments, and please give me a like and subscribe.